Hey everybody, and welcome back to my program. This is Lisa, proud owner of Body Soul Training. Welcome back to our program called The Inner Life of Fitness, where we share stories to help inspire to ignite your inner and outer strength. And I have to say, I haven't been nervous for any shows, but I am so excited. I'm a little nervous today to be interviewing this wonderful human being. She's always smiling. She has tons of energy and full of life. Please welcome to the show, my friend, Alison Bologna.
Hey, Lisa.
Hey, girl. You look beautiful as always.
Really? Up since 3 a.m. Thank you. I appreciate your kindness, your generosity.
Well, I am so happy that you're here on the show. And I'd like to share a little bit with our viewers. You've been a Rhode Islander for a while, and I know you are not one to brag about yourself, but I want people to know about you a little bit more before we dig into some questions. So, you received your undergraduate degree at Northwestern University, Medill School, right, in Chicago, the Windy City, where Oprah. Then you went to Columbia University, and you graduated from journalism with honors. And then you didn't stop there. So you went to Harvard University, where in 2015, you got your master's degree in English, and you made Dean's List there. It's important. I want people to realize that you're not only beautiful, personable, and bubbly, but you're also really, as we say in Rhode Island, wicked smart. Prior to being a journalist here, right? So you're a co-anchor of NBC Channel 10 News, which I watch Sunrise. I love you guys. You do a great job. I don't know if people know that you were an anchor in Boston at Fox 25 News, right? And you also, I didn't know this, so I was like doing some digging, and you were the youngest producer. So you did some Dateline NBC stuff?
When I left Columbia, yes, that was my first job as an assistant producer at Dateline NBC. So I ran around wearing hidden cameras for the investigative unit for Hoda Kotb at the time, Chris Hansen at the time, and some other investigative journalists. So yeah, that's what brought me to Rhode Island, because NBC owned Channel 10. So I went from assistant producer, associate producer, field producer, to then moving on air here in Rhode Island.
Wow. And that was around what 2015?
I moved to Rhode Island in 2002. Yes.
In 2002. Wow. Yeah. That's so cool.
Longest I've lived anywhere is Rhode Island.
Really? So now do you find it hard do you pack a lunch when you go from Cranston to Newport? Like, what
is that about Rhode Islanders, the driving? I'm so used to driving everywhere, so it doesn't bother me, but I've definitely gotten used to the culture out here about keeping it close. As far as, especially when running a business, paying attention to those behaviors.
Oh yeah. And then giving directions. We always have to give directions by saying, do you remember where the old Civic Center used to be?
Exactly.
And now it's Duncan. Yeah, we don't give street names. So
no, we don't.
So I also want to let people know, I know you have tons of awards, and you're humble and you don't want to talk about it, but you received an Emmy Award. Did you go to the Emmy?
Half has like 8 of them, so I'm really not that special.
So your other half is Dave?
You know Dave, yes. So he's a photographer in the investigative unit at WCBB in Boston. He's been there a long time. I don't know. He's nominated for a bunch more this year. I am not. So.
And we share a similar last name, Monjo.
Monjo, yes. Michael Dave Monjo, yes.
But we are not related. We found that out.
A fundraiser, nonetheless. Yes.
Yeah, that was an awesome fundraiser. We'll dig into that. You also let's see, you were founder and executive of Shri Studios, Service Corps and Bark, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I want to go over a couple of more awards, and I kind of like they're really all right. But people need to know, like, you have, let's see, the Edward Murrow Awards, 2 Associated Press Awards, the Grace Allen Award, Investigative Reporter Awards. The Providence Business News recently named you 40 under 40 professionals in the Ocean State.
That was 2 years ago, but we'll go for 40 now.
You look 30. Are you kidding me? You also received a National Organization Italian American Honor, which is so cool, for TV in your community. And are you full-blooded Italian?
I'm half, but I'm mostly Italian. So my dad's full Italian. That's the Bologna side. And then my mother is Irish, English, German, and a little bit of French. So I guess I'm a little bit of everything. But my dad will tell you she's mostly Italian.
That's so cool. We're going to dive into your community work. I mean, you've also received awards for your community work, and you've done a lot of work into the community. We'll dig into that. In 2013, you were Women Excellence Award on behalf of the Women's Center in Rhode Island. Rhode Island Small Business Journal Entrepreneur Woman to Watch in 2014 and 13, and a Community Leadership Award by the Arc of Blackstone. You were also honored by Senator Sheldon Whitehouse for your work with men and women in recovery, and the Attorney General recently presented you with the Justice Award, which is given to individuals to recognize their extraordinary commitment to justice and consumer protection. I mean, you're just like, when do you sleep?
7:30 every night. I have a crazy schedule just because I meet Mario. Mario gets into work earlier than me. So Mario Hilario is my co-anchor at Channel 10. So he gets in about 3:30. I get in closer to 4. So it's an early schedule, but it's a great schedule because I get done earlier, which means I can do my journalism work and then switch gears later in the morning and do my community work. But I stop everything at 7:30 at night, and I'm pretty disciplined about sleep, which is actually a practice we talk about a lot at SHRI, which is brain health in addition to physical health, bodily health as well. Well, your brain's not body, but you know what I mean. Physical fitness, you don't always think about brain health, but we indeed do at SHRI for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I want to talk about. So in your free time, because you have tons of it, you enjoy teaching yoga and your studio. So let's talk about SHRI and what SHRI's about, and maybe you can dive into some SHRI bark.
Sure.
Here, I do love the SHRI bark.
Oh, okay. There we go. So there's some pictures. Yeah, actually, those are 2 of our locations. So we started I live in Pawtucket. So we started in downtown Pawtucket in 2010. That's the picture where I'm in Lotus seated. That was 21 Broad Street. And that's where we started. And the whole idea was urban revitalization yoga, to go into kind of a quiet, empty space and see if we could bring some light to it. And SHRI means light, radiance, and abundance in the language of yoga, which is Sanskrit. And we also use it as an acronym for support, honor, respect, inspire. So we keep growing out of our spaces. We went from that space to the Armory, and then where you see me in Headstand, that is at the Hope Artiste Village. And then we moved from in-person to online when COVID-19, of course, occurred. The majority of the folks we teach are at-risk students, meaning we're going into senior centers, hospitals, recovery centers, schools, social service agencies. So we wanted to be very careful about everyone's health when the pandemic hit. So we were one of the first places, even before the state ordered a shutdown, we voluntarily closed our doors and moved online as of April, just to be extra, extra careful. And during that time, we also purchased a 15,000 square foot mill in downtown Pawtucket. So we're hoping to renovate that mill now in partnership with another nonprofit in the city called Pawtucket Central Falls Development Corporation. So lots happened in the last year, but the mission has always been focused on serving those in need with holistic practices. And the idea was go into this space, a first space in Broad Street, put great, skilled, authentic teachers on the schedule, do trainings that help us be trauma informed, and serve our community. And so it started with just me teaching in the beginning, and now we're up to 43 teachers, and we're serving about 8,500 students plus a year across all of our different projects.
Wow, that is just so amazing. Have you always been into fitness, and what inspired this? What inspired you to say, hey, I want to give back to the community? I mean, I know when you're working as a journalist, you have to, because you're getting paid, but you don't have to be doing what you're doing. So
right.
What inspired
that? I like to be busy. That's just part of my nature. And what I decided to do was give back to the community in which I live. And I had been practicing yoga for a long period of time, but predominantly a physical practice. I was practicing what's called Ashtanga yoga, which is a very intense physical practice. And as I started doing more and more of that, I actually got more interested in the intellectual practice. So then I started really studying the Bhagavad Gita. And actually, when I went to grad school for my second master's for my English degree, I actually wrote my thesis on karma yoga. What does that mean? And how does it really have its roots in New England? And the intellectual practice kind of took hold. So yes, I'm into fitness, but I'm actually much more interested in the intellectual and the meditative contemplative practices of yoga. And what we're trying to do at Shri is to make them more accessible to people. People should be able to access these sorts of classes and programs with really good, skilled, and friendly teachers in an environment that's safe for them. So we started with one class. We started with the recovery program. And Lisa, it just started with the proximity to a recovery center. And that was the whole philosophy behind Shri, was if we go into the area that we think needs services, then we're going to serve the folks immediately on our block, and then we'll go out from there. So the Anchor Recovery Center, I was on the board of the Providence Center at the time, and they gave the funding for the first ever peer-to-peer recovery center, which was called the Anchor Recovery Center, and they were right down the street from us. So Jim Gillen, the executive director, just walks up, knocks on the door, and says, "Hey, I heard you run yoga classes. How do you feel about running some classes with some of our folks before or after their AA or NA meetings?" And Kate Halley, one of the first teachers at Shri, she's been at Shri since like before Shri existed, took on the class, had a real passion for serving this community. And that was our first project. We started with a free class once a week, serving directly in our neighborhood, the folks from the Anchor Recovery Community Center. Then we added schools, and then we added adaptive. And the adaptive program, the Flying Shuttles Art Studio, again, across the street from us. And it's a program run and operated by adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So I knocked on the door. And when I said, "Would you guys like to try some yoga?" And the executive director said, "We have no funding." I said, "It's free. Don't worry about it. I'm just curious if you want to give it a try." And Tony said, "Well, I don't know if they'll like it, but we'll try it." And that was back in 2012. And that class, this is a picture of Alfred. This is something that hangs in my office. So this is me with one of my adaptive classes, and this is Alfred, and he's in his 70s now, but he's been practicing at Shri since 2012. And he's kind of the focus, I would say. His group was my first adaptive group, and they helped me design our adaptive curriculum for intellectual and developmental disabilities. And now some of those students have done our 80-hour outreach training with their direct service professionals, and they are now paid teachers at Shri, adaptive students turned teachers. So we have two examples of that, Damon and Brian, which is really something that we're strategically looking forward to. We've been open for 11 years. Like the next 11 years, I really want to see more students in our outreach programs become empowered and become teachers. So it's like a full 360 of empowerment.
So that's why that's what inspired me to do this program, Alison, is stories like yours. It's that pebble in that water, that positive pebble, and that one person can truly make a difference. So, the stories of inner life of fitness. And you mentioned, that you're not into, you're into the physical fitness, but more the mental piece. And that's another reason.
Brain health, intellectual curiosity. Our classes at Shri, yes, there are absolutely physical components of it. But the Shri curriculum, which I structured and then co-wrote with many of our teachers through the experiences that we have each and every day, has 4 core components. And the very first component of every class starts with introductions and intentions. And it's kind of like a sharing circle. So who do we support, honor, respect, or who inspires us today? And the idea is an adaptive class, a school project class, a recovery class, a seniors class. We're all starting in that same way with the intellectual, mental, brain practice of yoga. Then we move into movement. Then we move into community building activities. And then we move into meditation practices. But, I think a lot of people think of yoga as, being upside down. And that's kind of funny you showed a headstand, because that's a beautiful pose and I love practicing it. But we don't teach headstands in yoga outreach. We do not teach headstands at Shri. That's just part of my personal practice. The idea is really about coming together. So yoga really means union. So the idea is we're connecting people with one another. Whether or not you can touch your toes, like it's great if you can touch your toes. You're going to feel better in your body, right? But it's not at all the most important thing. And in fact, most of our students come to our classes in jeans. We may or may not get their sneakers off, depending on what school we're in, and the kids don't want to do it. I mean, we're a very accessible yoga organization, which I hope is practicing at the end of the day what is described as karma yoga. And karma yoga really means the practice of showing up, being skillful in service without an attachment to the outcome. So it's just showing up for the sake of showing up and connecting with one another. And Alfred is a great example of that. He's taught me more than I've taught him probably. And he gave me the courage to try different things with our curriculum, which then we used in other programs. And we have a great team of teachers. We have teachers who've been there since 2010. We have other teachers who did a training with me maybe in 2018 who are with us. But the majority of our teachers have been with us for 5+ years, which is, I think, really important when it comes to the integrity of our program, and hiring and empowering folks who are like-minded in the community is really important.
Well, I mean, the mission is strong and the person leading it is even stronger. I mean, you started this 11 years ago and you sound like you're just opening next week. Your passion is through the roof. And I mean, I'm not paying you to say anything that you're saying. Everything you're saying is what I journey as well. And I try to share. And I am just so excited that you're here on the show to reiterate that it's that mind, body, spirit connection. It starts at that level. Can we go back a little bit further? Like, where, you're smart, you're driven, you're passionate, you're a good human being, but, is there somebody in your life that just, you say, I want to do this for this person? Or
I don't know if consciously I opened Shri up with my sister Jackie in mind, but I'm the oldest of 3 girls. My sister Jessica is a brand new mom to twins. I say brand new, we just celebrated their 3rd birthday. But my youngest sister, our youngest sister, Jackie, is going to turn 40 this year, and she's nonverbal, autistic, learning disabled. So I've grown up alongside the population of folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and I've always enjoyed working with those folks outside of my professional life, and in my professional life too, depending on what stories I'm telling in my role as a journalist. So I think that's why the adaptive project in particular at Shri motivates me so much and shapes the larger curriculum. But having grown up with a sister with profound special needs certainly influences you. And my mother has been her full-time caregiver all of these years. And I've seen the way she interacts with Jackie, and the way Jackie's been very blessed in her life, despite so many challenges, has been very fortunate to receive such love in her life. So I think, like I said, I didn't open Shri necessarily saying I'm opening up Shri because I grew up with a disabled sister. There was never a mission statement like that, but it definitely in the background has driven me to do this community work, because if it wasn't a passion project, I wouldn't do it, because Channel 10 pays the bills, and I love my job at Channel 10. It's not like I'm doing Shri for the economic side of it. I mean, I want it to be profitable, obviously, and do some good work and give back in the community in a fiscal way as well, which our nonprofit does. But the idea is that it's a passion project where you show up and you feel connected not only with the teachers who you work with side by side every day, but the students who I hope we're empowering to become future teachers. I was right before air, Lisa, pulling up a picture of my sister. So I will do that right now for you too.
And as you're getting that ready, I just want to, we have one of our, Laura, oh, there, nice.
Oh, sorry, you're getting a little bit of a reflection, but that gives you an idea. Those are my parents with my sister Jackie, and that's just from a couple of years ago. Oh. Sporting her Shri shirt, which is really sweet too. So she's been to some of the classes as well. They just moved to Jamestown, Rhode Island. So she's in 2 different programs, one with Looking Upwards and one with Life Inc., which stands for Living in Fulfilling Environments. And both of those agencies I met through Shri. So as she's been getting older, I convinced my parents of some really great agencies in Rhode Island. You might want to take a look. And now she's a part of them and part of our programs, which is great.
That's absolutely inspiring, incredible. Like you said, you're like, Channel 10 pays the bills. Okay, that's great. But Channel 10, you're working your butt off, and you could easily, just pay someone else to do it. I mean, you sound like, you get your hands in it. Your hands are, that's why it is what it is, because, you didn't start this and then drop it, but you're giving up your time. These are hours and hours of work. I know this.
But I don't see it like giving up time. I don't. I can see why somebody might think that, but I want to stress that there's a whole team of us. Shannon Menahan runs all the scheduling and operations. Kristen Varadian, when we transferred everything into online during COVID-19, we brought her on in addition to all of her teaching as the student advocate. specifically to be able to pick up the phone and bring iPads to people with my help so that we could train seniors and others who didn't understand the technology to keep them connected still, and to do it in a way with kind of the customer service end of, we're here to help, we'll take your phone call, we're going to be with you on the phone until you get that Zoom link working type of thing. Silvana Mace is our finance director. We have, every project has a different project leader. Robin Sousa is a big mentor for our teachers, who's available 24/7 if somebody in the middle of the curriculum says, I tried this community building activity in lesson whatever, can you help me really bring it to life? So there's 43 of us out in the community. I will say, you know, I used to teach more. I'm not teaching as much as I used to teach, just because the administrative side does require more of my attention. But I sub for all the classes. I'm still in adaptive classes. And that's what's special about Shri. A lot of the teachers can sub for the veterans, can sub for the recovery class, can pop into an adaptive, because our curriculum, because of our best practices, hits all these different points. So all the teachers are really willing to step in and do their part. And everybody who works at Shri teaches. It's just a matter of our some of us teaching one class a week. Like I used to teach 15 classes a week. I'm teaching like a few a month right now, but I'm always teaching monthly. And then we have other teachers who are teaching 5 classes a day, 3 days a week. It just kind of depends on where people are in their lives.
Yes. Ed, can we show a picture of Alison show how much she does beam when she's with her students?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. No, but it's all good. It's all good. Pull it up.
We have lots of videos online.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, that'll be good.
Oh, yeah. So up on the very top, the 2 gentlemen with their arms in the air. That's the Robbins classes. That's an adaptive class in partnership with Life Inc. Liz, who runs Life, is amazing. Then you can see some of our school classes, adaptive classes, and then a whole chunk of classes that we actually funded in Nepal. We had a teacher who was traveling with her school to Nepal, and we shipped over, with help from Athleta, in this case, yoga mats to Kathmandu, to this school. And then she ran with our curriculum, and we actually paid her for her time to implement the curriculum in their school. We've done a few overseas programs. We've been to that school in Kathmandu, Nepal twice. We've also done some work in Costa Rica as well. And now that we've but we've gotten better at doing things remotely, we can probably reach more folks outside of New England with greater ease at this point moving forward, which would be another great opportunity for us as well.
That's
I hope you can see people are happy. That's the thing with me with Shri. I'm like, when we take pictures, and I pop in and out of a lot of different programs, just with obviously consent from the agency, students taking pictures, and I study the pictures because I always look at people's expressions on their faces. And the idea, see the jeans, nobody's showing up like in Lululemon pants, and I love Lululemon, don't get me wrong, but most folks who are coming to a Shri class are coming in between their period in a school, or it's one of their first pieces of their day program in a social service agency. So we show up wherever our students show up. The bottom, at least in my view, the bottom right-hand corner is the Pawtucket School Department Transition Program. And that teacher, Debbie, is still with us. That picture is probably 6 years old. Different students, because once they're 21, they age out of the system, and then they go into a social service agency out of the school district. But that teacher's still with us.
Oh, wow.
They're still going strong. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And do we have any more pictures of, or is that it? Any more pictures of her teaching? Oh, well, let's talk about the Shri Bark. How is Shri Bark related to Shri? Obviously, the main Shri. And I have 3.
Where did you get those?
I went to Whole Foods.
Okay, good. Yeah. So Shri Bark's like a side thing so Dave was like baking up granola and stuff. We're going back to 2014 now. Brought it to a fundraiser just to kind of give out a snack, and people seemed to like it. So we thought it would be a great way to bring this social enterprise model to help fund our nonprofit and get the word out about everything Shri does into the community. So what we did was, after we got some feedback, Dave tweaked the recipe. We found a wholesale, nut-free commercial bakery in Pawtucket, of course, right? Also back to Pawtucket. And we gave them the recipe, and then we started coming up with different flavor profiles. And my girlfriend, Jen, who's just joining our board, Jen, I met at teacher training back in 2006. She came up with all the branding behind Shri. She came up with all the new packaging that you see, along with a RISD artist who did all the fun yoga poses. And we just started putting Shri Bark out into the community so a portion of the sales could go back to our nonprofit. So we were building a social enterprise model where we aren't always relying on a fundraiser or grant cycle to bring in proceeds, but we can just go out there with a product, which is, by the way, good for you. It's soy-free, nut-free, dairy-free, gluten-free, vegan, school-safe, and bring it into the community, and proceeds from that enterprise can help fund our nonprofit. So we're in some Whole Foods. We were in Dave's, but actually during the COVID pandemic, we made the strategic decision to really focus on direct sales. So we do a ton of online orders, direct to doorstep, a lot with Source What's Good. So home deliveries, in addition to working with Farm Fresh Rhode Island. And then in the midst of all this, Lisa, we ended up coming up and designing a whole, so this came from a class. We got a grant from Blue Cross Blue Shield 2015 to teach a yoga and smart snacking program at a middle school. So Nathaniel Green Middle School. I taught all those classes. It was 24 classes, and we combined a couple of PE periods. And part of the programming was, instead of our mindfulness component at the end of a class, we did mindful eating, mindful snacking. And I would bring in the snacks, and the kids would start to read the labels. Nice. What is a cranberry? What is an oat? So they could actually see and pay attention to what they were eating. And give us feedback, but also just learn more about whole ingredients. So Rhode Island Healthy School Coalition came in, and Karen Wetherill said, why don't we figure out a way, where's this produced? I said, Pawtucket. She goes, well, why don't we figure out a way to formulate this so it can be part of the free and reduced breakfast program in public schools?
Wow.
So we did. We had to change the formula a little bit to meet what we call the 2-grain requirement in schools, but we have whole grain rounds and whole grain muffins. There's now in
I saw that,
them, and they go into all the public schools. So we're in partnership with Sedexter and Providence Public Schools. Chartwell's has the state contract. Aramark and Pawtucket, which now on Fridays is doing all different Shri Bark varieties. And during the pandemic, actually, we did a lot of grab-and-go kits. And with the city, we do a lot of free programming to get Shri Bark out into the senior centers. And because it's nut-free and allergen-free, we can reach a lot of folks. And it helps fund our programs. So we learned a lot during the pandemic, and we did decide to go a less traditional route, less on direct store shelves with the exception of a couple of Whole Foods, but more on direct sales with our customers. So we can
like that. And we have, and our viewers, they can see shribarksnacks.com, so they can order there.
You will, I'll get a form. It's a PayPal link, and then it gets delivered to you within the week.
So we're hearing a lot about Pawtucket, and I didn't touch upon that. In addition to what you're doing, you also are on the board of trustees for the Old Slater Mill Museum.
Yes.
And the Pawtucket, go ahead.
Just sold it to the National Park Service. So that is taking it's not dissolving, but it's taking a turn. It's being handed over to the federal government.
Okay.
Which is very new. So it'll be part of the National Park Service with the whole Blackstone corridor, which will be great because they'll have all of those resources of the federal government, and they'll be able to use the park. But yes, I've been on the board of Old Slater Mill for a very long time.
And the Pawtucket Boys and Girls Club.
Boys and Girls
Center.
Providence Center, I retired from, but I was on the board for quite some time. And I'll be joining Amos House next year as well. Wow. Directors. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Eileen Hayes, who's the executive director. So when she asked me, I said, not now, but definitely in a few months or so.
Alison, the world's a better place because of people like you in it. Can I ask?
Better, I think, if you're mindful while you're busy, right? You're doing it.
Is that your mantra?
I like to show up. I always talk about showing up. I like to be busy. I like to be present, but I have to do it in a way where I know that my action has some sort of meaning, and whether or not it's for, Alfred or my sister or a particular teacher who I'm trying to support, it could be one person or, 10 in us. I check in every day and just remind myself, why am I doing this? On some days it's a little bit harder than others when the grant paperwork piles up, but you figure it out.
So could people donate? Could people send donations if they want? And how can they do that?
So if you go to shriyoga.org, on the footer, there's a donate page. And I'm not a paid executive director, so all the funds go directly into the funding of free classes. And we are, here's another little prop for you.
You are so cute.
So Stan Corporation gave this to me. Headline is, right before the pandemic hit, we purchased a 15,000 square foot historic mill in Pawtucket in a pocket of the city that's being called the TOD district, and that stands for Transit Oriented District. So it's 500 feet from the much anticipated MBTA commuter rail for Pawtucket and Central Falls, and they are hard at work at it.
Wow.
So the city introduced us to a building. It's 390 Pine Street in Pawtucket. It's been empty for quite some time. It's gorgeous. It will be gorgeous. It's on the historic register, and it's a 15,000 square foot mill built in the 1800s. And we closed on the purchase of the building January 30th, 2020, right before the pandemic. So, and right before the fires, if you remember the fires that burned about 1 million square feet right next door to us. We survived it. We had to take a pause on our plans while COVID was happening, but we spent that time finishing up the design work with our amazing architect. Shout out to Ed Wojcik. So our design plans are ready. We're almost funded, but we have a little bit more to go because of some challenges prevented by COVID. But this will be Shree's new home. So of the 15,000 square feet, we have a brand new parking lot funding from DEM, and Shree will occupy about 3,500 square feet on the first floor. So we'll have studios, treatment rooms, boardroom, you name it. We'll have 2 more commercial spaces for other nonprofits and social enterprises. And then we're doing affordable housing on the top floor. So we'll have 8 apartments, 5 of which will be affordable housing units which the city and state desperately need. Oh. So I'm doing that in partnership with Pawtucket Central Falls Development Corporation. And we just hired our general contractor, which is Stand Corporation, which does a ton of work with other nonprofits, including Rhode Island Free Clinic and Amos House. And that's who surprised me with this. So
I love that.
Shout out to Don and Craig. I'm looking forward to meeting with them and preserving this building and bringing light into the neighborhood. So it's challenging. Never done anything like this before, but very fortunate to be surrounded by people in the community who know this sort of work and appreciate what we're doing, and I appreciate what they're doing, and we're going to rebuild this building and help out this neighborhood, I hope.
Nice. Well, Rhode Island's lucky that you decided to come and move here and work at NBC.
I love it here.
We're so lucky. Allison, you're amazing. Go ahead.
You wanted to mention about donating, so you can donate to our programs. And a little bit of news, we haven't announced this yet, so scoop for you, Lisa.
Whoa, all right.
We're gonna launch probably in July what we're calling the Shree Giving Wall. So if you love this work and you would like to walk into 390 Pine Street once it's under construction and we open the gorgeous, beautiful doors, our brand new handicap ramp, it's gonna be such a beautiful space. If you want to see your name up on the wall as a supporter, we're going to launch, something a lot of nonprofits do. We're going to do it in kind of a creative way, a Shree Giving Wall, so that the community can invest in the build out of the space as well, which helps us during this challenge with COVID, helps us fill a little bit of a funding gap, but also lets the community contribute to the space. So imagine coming into or out of the space and seeing your name on the wall, and we'll have different giving levels. If that calls to you. If not, there's going to be all kinds of different ways to participate in our classes, because the idea is we're serving more than 8,500 students right now. We hope to double that with this new space, not just in Rhode Island, but in southeastern Massachusetts and across New England too.
And also sounds globally. I mean, you've been down to Costa Rica and other areas, but yeah, you have to start somewhere. That is so. I don't know. I think it speaks for itself. You're just an amazing human being. I thank you for being on this show. Thank you for all that you're doing to help make a positive difference in this world.
Well, thank you, Lisa. You always show up with a smile, and I appreciate that.
Hey,
great fundraiser on the corner.
Wait, Ed, do you have that picture of us? Because we're both Best of Rhode Island winners.
Oh,
let's see. I love this picture. There it is.
Let me see. Do I see it? Oh, with Alyssa.
Yeah,
she's amazing. I love her.
Yeah.
Great too. That's right. That was a fun event with you.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, congratulations. You're Best Rhode Island, but we got to celebrate. And that's, so thank you, Allison, for being on the show.
Thanks for inviting
me. Being here. Yeah, and I wish you the best of luck, but I know you don't need it because you've surrounded yourself with
can use it.
So we're sending you good, more positive energy your way.
Manifest, Pine Street, manifest.
You're awesome. Thank you so much, Alison. I hope you and wish you the nothing but the best. Thank you for sharing with our viewers. And I want to say, if anybody out there has an inspiring story, please email me, lisa@bodysoultraining.com. And if you do want to buy one of these Shri bars, it does help a beautiful nonprofit Shri organization, as you just heard. If you want to donate, just go to Shri. You can go to shri.com, shriyoga.org, and you can donate there. Let's help make a difference, right? What's one donation? $1, $10. We can all make a difference. So I made mine today, and I went out and bought my Shri bars, which are delicious. So I want to tell everybody, join in next week to the Inner Life of Fitness, where I'll be sharing another inspiring story with Kerry Brothers Smart. Kerry is an 8-year breast cancer survivor, a mother of 2, and she works in development at Thomas College. Learn more about this moving story and how Kerry now makes it her mission to inspire others through her words and never-ending positive energy. So remember to take it one day at a time, move more, drink more water, and breathe. See you all next week on the Inner Life of Fitness, everybody. Bye.